We're live and only 5 minutes behind schedule. We're doing well this year. Good morning, Pirates. Hello, everyone. So this is 2024, and we are yet another year into the future. Time's arrow flies ever onwards. We are probably going to have a little bit of palaver before we jump straight into the business first. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we formally start. The YouTube link. If anyone is still looking for the YouTube link, but you're watching on YouTube, probably can't help you there. Alex, I've posted to the party Facebook and my personal Facebook and Twitter. Are there any other platforms we need to send the stream link out onto?
There's always the Mastodon, and that will probably get, people would probably like to see that, so I will send that up.
Excellent, thank you very much. And would it be possible for me to ask you to do the Instagram as well?
Can do.
Excellent, thank you. And also a reminder that members are all welcome to join and address Congress, and we don't have any urgent need of any joining us for the morning sessions. However, you're welcome to join and lurk anyway. And so there'll be a link to the meeting to join in. I'll put it on Discord. Put it on the Discord. And I don't think we have any other housekeeping. Alex? Okay, I'll give Alex a minute while he just follows that up. And I can, in the meantime, I can prep for the first item before we formally open. Okay, Alex is giving me the thumbs up, so we are ready to formally start. So I declare 10:07 a.m. East Coast time, National Congress 2024 is now open. We are coming together from many different parts of Australia, and some of us aren't even in Australia, those who are watching. And many thanks and much love to our international friends as well. Especially, I want to put a mention in for the US Pirate Party. They are gearing up for their presidential campaign, where they are endorsing and joining the campaign of Vermin Supreme, well-known left libertarian and big fan and supporter of the pirate movement. And so some very exciting stuff. They've also recently just had their national conference, Piratey McPirate Face. And so I wish them much luck in their campaigns. But for those of us within Australia, we are tuning in or broadcasting from land that was not ceded from its original owners, whether by treaty or other. And so it's good to be mindful of that. I myself am on Niagara Turrbal land, formerly known as Meanjin, now known as Brisbane. And so I acknowledge the traditional and emerging custodians, the elders, past, present, and future. And on that, although those of us in this room are all quite young, we are all working and have some experience in political campaigns, and that we've been around long enough to see several generations of pirate politics come and go. And so later this morning, I'm going to be proposing a revitalization of where the pirate movement has been and where it should be going. But first, the formal business of today will be to adopt the standing orders. As actually, before we do that, I'll put a final call out for any housekeeping that is necessary. If Alex, you have any final housekeeping announcements or formal reminders? I will put in one quick acknowledgement as well for the Fusion Party Australia, of which we are a proud founding member, and that our electoral campaigns have been under the auspice or in collaboration with Fusion Party as well. And I'll be talking about that as well in my opening address. Alex has asked me to talk more slowly. I apologize. I'll try and contain my enthusiasm. So the next section will be quite easy to minute. We just have to adopt the standing orders. I'll put I think the formalities for how we'll do votes. What I'll request is, once again, the bot is not working this year. So what I'll request we do is that all votes go into the #Congress General on Discord or on your IRC link of choice, which should be working. And Alex has, Alex, can I confirm whether the IRC bridge is working for the Congress channels?
IRC is indeed working. Can confirm.
Excellent, thank you. So if there's
Well, it's working one way. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
We've definitely got Discord to IRC. Let's double check the reverse. Yep, the reverse is indeed happening. We have that technology.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I'll propose for votes then is that either myself or Alex will be the one to formally indicate. Actually, no, sorry. As chair, I will be the one to formally open and close voting on a motion. Any member can propose a motion at any time, but for the sake of formality, I'll try and sort it so that we only vote on one motion at a time. And what I'll do is I will declare in text chat and over voice that the motion that's on the floor, and then as well as when voting starts and when voting closes. So to vote, please put your votes into text chat, either aye, nay, or abstain. And then I will give it a customary 2 minutes or shorter if I feel like there's a higher degree of, I feel that everyone has responded. And if anyone is having issues voting, please get in touch. The person to talk to is Alex Jago, the party secretary, who can verify your membership and your right to vote on these motions. Okay, so the next item is to adopt the standing orders. I'll just do a quick screen share so people can see. I'll quickly run through these as a summary. The general rules are I will be chairing, and we have, now that we are fully online, it's customary for the remote chair and the physical chair to be the same person. Alex Jago, party secretary, is taking minutes. If anyone wishes to formally address Congress, please join the Jitsi. And what I'll get you to do in the Jitsi, please just raise your hand if you'd like to speak at the next available opportunity. We'll try and observe a speaking order. And those in text chat, feel free to just type as you go. If you'd like your comment formally read out on the stream, please type comments in all capitals before it, and that'll be the traditional signal to me that you wish to make a formal comment to be to ensure that it's registered in the minutes. So the motions to amend the policy of the platform or the constitution have now closed. There are still nominations open for electable positions, and they will close at the start of business tomorrow morning. So if you wish to nominate for the National Council, there is still plenty of time for that, and I'll highly encourage that, and I'll talk about that more later. If you wish to make any formal motions at any time, simply type it into chat with, in all capitals, text motion, and then the wording of the motion. And there are other procedural matters as well, which may or may not be useful, but are there if anyone wishes to. These are battle tested and well honed. So I will now, as a procedural thing, I don't anticipate much conversation or debate, so I will now place a motion to adopt the standing orders. Please start your votes in text chat. Okay, I will close the voting and declare the motion passed. The next item on the agenda is to provide the outgoing National Council reports. And I will propose that I go first, but I'd like to do a quick roll call for those wishing to present reports. Alex, did you want to present a report?
I have a report to present, yes.
Excellent, thank you. John, I believe you've prepared a report to present as well.
John has submitted a
Yes,
Treasurer report, yes.
Great, thanks a lot, John. I'd also like to, if we have time, I'd also like to invite other members to say a few words after the outgoing council presented their reports, most likely later in the morning. All right. So my name is Miles Whittaker. I am the National President of Pirate Party Australia. I don't want to imply that I'm the eternal leader of the Pirate Party, but it has been several years now. And with luck, it will be a couple more. Over the past year, the vast majority of my time has gone into Fusion Party campaigning, and a very small part of my time has gone into pirate-specific work. The majority of that has been either engaging with the international pirate movement or providing administrative support to the Pirate Party behind the scenes. There's a couple of reasons for this. I think, unintentionally or not, I see Fusion as a broader and more cohesive movement, which has more potential for electoral change than a pirate movement alone. And obviously, many pirates disagree with me, or some pirates disagree with me, and that's totally fine. In the spirit of disagreement, that is how we provoke innovation and new ideas and friendly competition. Within the Fusion Party campaigns, we've had a very, very busy time 2 years ago. The last 12 months have been a little bit more relaxed, thankfully. We've done a number of by-elections. Most notably, there was the Aston by-election in Victoria last year, and there was the Inala by-election a few months ago here in Queensland, where I am, as well as the Dunkley by-election again in Victoria. And a lot of my time has gone into supporting those campaigns. And the current ongoing campaigns we have, I've been putting a lot of time into the forming the West Australian campaign team to provide them support, as well as support for our City of Yarra Council campaign, which is going to be in a couple of months. We are also in the process of forming campaign teams for the Sydney Council election and the Queensland state election. If anyone's interested in supporting or joining any of these campaigns, please get in touch. My point of policy has always been that Fusion campaigns are pirate campaigns, and vice versa, and that is by forming, pooling our strength together, we managed to form a more cohesive, larger, more powerful movement capable of making change. And the strength of the pirate movement has always been in the ideas bringing us together and the identity bringing us together. And so similarly, the pirates have always, since the founding of Fusion, been a very vibrant and visible part of that, for better or for worse in some cases. But Fusion is, we talk about it as a delicious salad of different ideas and movements, identities and cultures and people. And I believe that is important. But bearing that in mind as well, the pirate movement does still exist and is vibrant. And the 2020s, this decade, has proven more than ever there is a surging need for pirate politics around the world and in Australia. And so even acknowledging that, we still have to reinvent ourselves to fully match the times. And there's a few major international points I'd like to bring about here as well. The autonomous weaponry has made massive strides in the past 5 years, and in particular, the Israeli army in Gaza has been using fully autonomous target generation by the Israeli intelligence forces with no human oversight whatsoever. purely based on circumstantial and context-based evidence. There was a enormous whistleblower report put out a few months ago about the Lavender AI program. And in a similar vein as well, the Ukrainian army, in defense against Russian aggression in Ukraine, has begun using fully autonomous drone strikes, where as I understand it, quadcopters are given completely autonomous target selection. And there are reports that it's been one of the most effective weapons used to stall Russian advances. And so for better or worse, autonomous weaponry is here to stay and appears to be acting without international or communitarian oversight. In a different but also concerning vein, we've seen the increased stranglehold of big tech over cultural production and dissemination. And this really comes back to the core of the Pirate Party movement, in how we initially started promoting open access to culture and media. And what we've seen is increasingly the major tech companies are locking down their sections of the internet and controlling the data and information. And whatever your opinions on AI are, there's a huge issue brewing there, in which all sides of politics feels like at least all sides of this debate within the Pirate Party and within Fusion Party, we need to get involved and take a stand. And on a personal level, I've thrown myself into that issue heavily over the past 12 months in advocating for not only better regulation of tech and AI within Australia, but also promoting education around machine learning, technical alignment, and how we can use AI tools for the betterment of humankind, and pushing back on misinformation there. And as I've always maintained, the AI issue is at its core a pirate politics issue because of not only the use of big data, which is gathered through non-consensual methods, enormous data hoovering and many, many different websites, but also similarly that it's an example of the Open Data Initiative, where here the benefits of AI very clearly come from having access to that data, as well as the risks. And so we need to be having those conversations and promoting a better awareness of the technical methods behind machine learning models, but also how we can better align them and regulate their creators for the good of all humankind. And the final international issue I want to highlight is the growing risk of what's known as the poly crisis, where we not only have the resurgent prospect of World War III, a building cost of living crisis, and the risk of another massive housing bubble. There is additionally the biosphere collapse going through the 6th mass extinction at the hands of humanity, and looming over it all as well, the climate change provoking the risk of much, much broader collapse. There's a saying I heard a few years ago that climate change is a non-diversifiable risk, which is to say that there is no part of society which is not at potential risk from climate change. And so the combination of these and other vectors as well, such as perhaps another global pandemic arising, in combination they're known as the poly crisis, where these intersecting existential risks, but each individually by themselves, you may or may not feel that they are a civilization-ending risk. However, it's undeniable that the combination of all of these and other potentially emergent ones over the next decade make this truly the most interesting century to be alive, and certainly one with the toughest challenges. But I have always maintained, will always maintain, that through the use of evidence-based policy and through truth-seeking and collaborative efforts, that maybe even through some strand of pirate politics, is the best way through these poly crises and the best way for us to move towards a more positive, humane future as well. So in that vein, the policy changes that we need to seek in the pirate movement in order to revitalize and remain relevant in the second decade of the 21st century are as follows. We need to support economic reform and alternative economics, and I'll put a particular mention on breaking up monopolies, strengthening antitrust regulation, ensuring competition, making the system fairer for low and middle income participants. And I want to stress these are my personal political beliefs, but I believe they are fully relevant here to pirate politics. And I'll also throw in a quick mention for alternative economic systems, in particular universal basic income and land tax, as two key areas of pirate policy, which I believe have more potential now than ever to mitigate or address any risk of economic collapse. The second policy set of changes I recommend is increased civic participation, including media literacy, greater civic responsibility, education on policy topics and emerging issues, as well as a more democratic electoral process. In particular, I support direct democracy, and I support methods related to direct democracy, such as sortition and civil assemblies. The exact mechanisms are open to debate and implementation. But as a general rule, technology-enabled direct democracy has been at the core of the pirate movement, perhaps more of a principle than a value or a policy, but at the core nonetheless. My third set of policy changes is recommending open source and open data, both for government and private sector companies. And no doubt that will raise a few hackles for people who argue that private companies should retain things such as commercially confident information. However, I highly recommend in this note that anyone interested or concerned around these areas should read Choke Point Capitalism, Cory Doctorow's new book, in partnership with Rebecca Ghibli at the Australian National University, where he goes into detail about how monopolistic companies make use of their unfair market position to gain incredibly privileged insight and information into market operations and market actors. And they use that information, which is by law commercial in confidence, they use that privileged information to cement and maintain their monopolistic positions. There's a saying that democracy dies in darkness, and similarly that the light of transparency burns away corruption. And so in this sense, private corporations are not human and should not and do not deserve the rights granted to other humans. And I think that is something that every pirate can and should agree with. To move towards a close, I believe that the best way to bring about these changes is through a new model of politics, which combines civic responsibility, the building of a broad-based coalition of many civil and political groups, and fundamentally to promote truth-seeking above all else. Thank you very much. I will happily take questions or responses. However, I'll put my speech notes into, I'll post them out on social media and on the Discord, but now I've taken up enough of the time, and I'd like to pass over to Alex Jago, Party Secretary, for his outgoing report.
Hi, everyone. I think my report is substantially shorter than Miles's report. So I'll keep it pretty brief. So this last year, as Miles notes, has been a relatively quiet one for the party, with most active efforts moving up into Fusion, such as Miles's. And so it's gone for internal things as well. What we've been doing in the NC fundamentally is keeping the lights on. Our slimmed down National Council doesn't have a lot of spare capacity for pirate-specific things, but it's also a stable equilibrium. Like, things aren't getting better, they're not really getting worse either. Our active membership numbers, for example, have seen a very gradual decline, totally understandable. We haven't been, we have to remind people to renew, and then they have to, actually think, oh yeah, the pirates are a thing which I am confident and happy about, and I will actively choose to renew there. Totally understandable that people forget to renew or decide not to, and so we've seen a little bit of a gradual decline there, but we retain a much broader set of passive members. It's not like people aren't actively resigning, they're just not renewing. And we've seen that, when we've got something for them to do, people can and do return, and it's great to see when that happens. I see a comment in the chat on my beard. My shaver is currently broken, so the beard is going well. So our next term, of course, must feature a federal election. by the time that the NC about to be elected, by the time that they are up for re-election in the middle of next year, we will have seen a federal election. So I expect that a number of pirates will contest this election under the Fusion banner. Unlike last time, we don't have the money in the bank account to kickstart their campaigns, but that's okay. We will raise it, again, through Fusion. So Miles and I have a number of constitutional recommendations for the upcoming term, and those are reflected in the 3 caps that we will be discussing later today. The first cap, and a major one, is that we'll start syncing the contact information of full pirate members with Fusion. This comes after a couple of years of experience, both with other people in Fusion and with our current situation. And it's not working, not very well. The party is quite split-brained. Pirates are out of the loop in a lot of ways because all the information and organizing that goes through Fusion direct contact channels has to get relayed through me. So that's subject to that. You put another human in the loop and delays happen. So we want to better integrate pirates in the larger party for all manner of party operations. And then there's a few things, as a party with a strong build your own versus buy philosophy over the years, we've accumulated a fair bit of IT over the years, and all of that has a bit of a cost. And so I'm going to look to archive and slimline a bunch of that to meet our current scope. A keystone of that would be the discussion forum, which we haven't been using for a while, that sort of thing. So same conclusion I always give. This party is run by those who show up, so please show up. Alrighty. And
thanks a lot, Alex. So, and yeah, echoing the point there about merging the member database as well, that it's been while on the one hand, the restrictive approach to privacy or the maximal approach to privacy, where it's been fully opt-in for the first roughly year or 18 months, we've been encouraging pirate members to register separately as Fusion, which introduces an element of dysfunctionality and in a way is actually mildly exclusive towards against pirates, I should say, in that the pirates are out of the loop, and it's slightly harder for pirates to get involved in campaigning, especially given that based on the structure of Fusion and the pirate party, that pirate members are full members of Fusion and have full rights, and that is not necessarily reflected in the way that the pirate membership database is maintained at more than arm's length. So this reduces a administrative burden as well as making the bonds closer and more functional and more inclusive of pirates into Fusion generally. The specifics of it we'll get into later, but the simplest way to say is that it'll be a partial merge, and only full pirate members will be coming into the Fusion member database. And in theory, it will simply just be an administrative change behind the scenes that will, we hope, only have good outcomes.
Yeah, I want to note that this is a synchronization. Everyone who is a pirate will still be in the current pirate member management system. We'll just be replicating that information over to the Fusion side as well. So then you'll get, we'll talk about this later, but you'll get Fusion stuff through Fusion, you'll get pirate stuff through pirates. Everyone's happy.
Right. So what I'll do now is invite John to present I think I'll invite John to present the Treasurer's report. If there's no more comments from anyone else on this, bearing in mind we'll come back and deal with it in much more detail later. John, do you want to take it away?
Okay, so let's see. What did it say here? My camera fails to does not satisfy some of the required constraints. Okay, that's a bit sad. Okay, yeah, I'm not shy. I'm happy to show my face, but the interface we have is not very friendly to my computer. I mean, I can do Zoom and so on, but in any case, so a bit of a treasurer's report. Now, last year at the annual general meeting, so it's a little bit post the end of the financial year, but normally I've sort of said, let's start at the start of the financial year and take it all the way to just a few days short of the meeting. So at the meeting, 20th of July last year, we had a total balance of $3,219.16, and we've dropped about $20, and you can actually see the report there. We've dropped down to $3,200.91. So the nice thing is, if you check basically our bank accounts, what it's basically trying to say is we've had money coming in from members, which is much appreciated. So as Alex says, on the one hand, keeping the lights on, but we do maintain the website. And, I do seem to remember, Miles, I think we did have an Assange-based thing earlier on as well. We've also been pumping out some media releases, which have obviously appeared on our website, and that costs some money. So you can see in Business Essentials, it's basically outgoings to support our operations. So, yeah, I mean, $2,000, rather, I should say $3,200 is a healthy amount to stay in the bank account. I think we could, I think I said more or less this last year, we could, run one or two campaigns depending on how they cost. As far as an election goes, I guess really you could do perhaps one candidate with that, but we'd have to do some fundraising to actually field some candidates. So I guess it's a bit of an issue of, what the Pirate Party is trying to do. And that, if we put up our hands for money, sometimes money does actually come in, and then we have a certain obligation to spend it all on the election. And then we start to scratch our heads about what to do financially after that. But I suppose as a party, I suggest that the next election, we should field at least one candidate somewhere in Australia, and perhaps, one candidate per state as we're able to. And Miles is saying that, look, the Western Australians are getting pretty energetic. So, that's certainly a good thing there. I think there's quite a decent amount of energy in Western Australia. So on a personal note, I will say I have been treasurer. I have appeared on the Economics Explored podcast. That's run by Jean Tunney out of Brisbane. So that's sort of been some sort of public-facing stuff I've done. Also, I have made quite a number of personal tweets, and sometimes people in the Pirate Party and Fusion have paid attention to them. So I shouldn't mute myself, but okay. So that's I guess that's my report. So Miles, I guess you're able to. I hope you're able to hear that. Hope the members were able to hear that. I think there's talk of having a break till 11 o'clock, and basically maybe we can kick off the break soon. But if people want to have some discussion for the next 10 minutes, I'm also happy to stick around.
Great, thanks a lot, John. I'd like to open the floor briefly for any comments on financial issues or the John's Treasurer report for the party. Also noting that there may have been some IRC issues earlier, so I apologize for that, but I think they might have been sorted now. Okay, if there are no comments or questions or discussions on finance or fundraising, actually I do have a brief one. As part of Fusion, I've started working on a cryptocurrency donations initiative, and I've laid the initial groundwork for that, but there are next steps to be done. Given that with my focus on campaigning, I'd like to hand this off to someone else to take the lead on. It is very exciting. I'm setting up a process for handling cryptocurrency donations. We do have a lot of supporters in various crypto communities. And I'd like to give a special mention to the transhumanist community in Australia and their coin, Transhuman Coin. If anyone is interested in getting involved with that project, please get in touch. As I said, I don't quite have capacity to be working on fundraising directly, but I'd still like to support that initiative. So if there's no comments, questions, or suggestions, what I'd like to propose now is I mentioned earlier that I was interested in opening the floor for any general comments or reports from party members over the past on issues over the past 12 to 18 months. What I propose now is that we go on our 10-minute break early, and so those interested in talking or saying a few words can collect the thoughts and get ready. And then when we come back, we can hear any of those final comments or reports, and then begin the business of addressing the announced motions for Congress. So,
shall we accept the office bearer reports before we go on break?
Yep, good suggestion. We need to do that. Accept the outgoing National Council reports. Treasurer, President, Secretary. And start your votes to accept those reports, those 3 reports. All right, I'll give it a little bit longer, see if there's any more votes to come. Okay, I think that's it. I'll call that vote there. I believe procedurally we need to have a motion to adjourn for 10 minutes. And so again, a reminder that after the 10-minute break, we'll hear reports from other party members on issues relevant to the movement. And then we'll go straight away into the announced motions. So the announced motions include constitutional amendments, policy motions, and any other formal motions. And I'll go through those thoroughly. So please put your votes in chat to adjourn now for 10 minutes. Okay, I'll give it a little longer. Okay, stop voting. That motion passes. I make it 10:44 East Coast time. We'll come back in 10 minutes at 10:54 East Coast time. And let's go to splash screen, please. All right. Who is here? That's pretty much on time.
I'm here, but I'll have to dart off for a minute or two at 11 o'clock, but I'm pretty much here.
So Milspec wanted to do a thing. I was also going to offer Owen if you wanted to talk. Okay, we are live, I think. Yep. Just waiting on a couple of people to come back still. Well, I'm here, even if no one else is. Okay, Alex is back. Milspec, are you with us?
Yep, ready when you are.
Okay, cool. We're ready to restart then. So I'd like to resume and first offer the floor to party member.
What was that, Miles? At the end, you cut off.
Sorry, I wanted to open the floor to you to speak about the West Australia campaign.
Okay, yeah, it'll be my pleasure. Hey everyone, I'm Milspec. I'm sort of the state campaign manager, I guess, at the moment for WA Fusion. As you guys probably know, I'm a long time Pirate Party member. Contributed a couple of policy proposals over the last few years. Nothing this year around, but yeah, been involved in the party for a little while now. So I guess this year we've got the state election coming up. The election is actually early next year. I think it was start of March, first week of March, something like that. But we're sort of gearing up for it now. So there should have been an email that's gone out, and if you haven't received it, please reach out to me and I can forward it on to you. But we're calling out for candidates at the moment. We've got a couple of maybe one or two people sort of interested at the moment, but we really want to open up the floor so we can go through a bit of a structured process to select the best candidates going forward. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, please reach out. There will be an application form, but you don't need to do that straight away. The first thing would like you to do is attend an information session. So there's going to be 2 or 3 of them, depending on the demand, I guess. So the first one is going to be the 31st of August at 7 p.m. WA time. And then the second one will be on Sunday, the 4th of August, also at 7 p.m. And then number 3 will be sort of scheduled on an ad hoc basis, depending on popular demand and when those people are free as well. We can schedule that to suit your schedule as well. So yeah, please reach out if you'd like to attend. Can I also encourage those who are not just interested in WA campaigns, like for example, you guys from Interstate, if you're interested in a national campaign, or if you just want to like show support to just turn up as well, that'll be really good. Because with politics, it's about building that momentum and building that I guess that mentality, that moral support. The more people we have log on to these things, the greater sense of FOMO, I guess, when people attend, and it's about that enthusiasm and that moral support as well that you can provide to your fellow Fusion/Party members. So it'll be great to see you guys there. And in the coming months, we'll be organising more in-person events, hopefully for our WA members, not just specific to the party, but we're going to try and attend other events such as potentially the Humanist Party, Humanist events, potentially Georgist events, things like that we think has a big overlap to our politics. We'll probably have an interest in attending, and that's just to build up the team. There's sort of half a dozen of us, or maybe even less at the moment, that sort of meet up. When these things come around, I like to build that up further into a bit of a more steady movement, a bit of a more steady tempo. So look forward to that. But to be honest, all that I think depends on whether or not we can get a solid candidate putting their hand up and that we can go forward with. Do you have any questions, Miles? Is there anything that you'd like me to cover that I've missed?
I think that was a really good summary. Yeah. So my role with the team has been to provide advice and support, particularly in the area of structure and strategy, whereas Milspec has been acting as the campaign facilitator to provide goals and timeline and meetings and scheduling and overall goal setting. So the team, we're very much still, I guess we're potentially still in sort of the team building stage. So we've laid the foundations for the campaign. We put out a call for candidates and really keen to keep growing stuff there. I guess something which I'm really excited about the West Australia campaign is that Perth particularly has one of the densest clusters of Fusion and Pirate members around all of Australia. And none of us realized that until we actually looked at the data and we're like, oh, actually, hang on a second. There's a lot of real potential here to run a really strong campaign. So this isn't just for West Australia members either. There are many options to provide remote support for the team if you're interested in helping out with Milspec and the local members. And the way to do that is the way to do that is through social media, through content writing, through policy analysis, through member engagement, through phone banking, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of ways to actually make meaningful, substantive contributions there. And I guess the final point I want to make was
well, I don't know if it's just me, but you've cut off there, Miles. Is it just me?
Yes, our president appears to have dropped connection for a moment. Hashtag
Yes,
we'll fix this.
It's John here. It does seem that way with me as well. I can't get anything from Miles.
Yep, it dropped.
Okay. Well, let me just continue for a little bit longer. I'd just like to also give a shout out to Avesta. Avesta's a new member as well to the team in WA. She's helping us with social media, and she's got a lot of enthusiasm, and she's done a great job so far with the email mail out and staying engaged as well. Angus as well. So Angus has expressed interest in running as a candidate. So that's really good to see. And I'll be talking to him more sort of in the coming weeks and in person as well, just to sort of get him prepped up for that as well. Yeah, we've got sort of some vacancies in the team, so we would like any volunteers that we can get, people who would be willing to make a few phone calls for us, help us organize potential in-person events, um, things like merchandise, just general general duties around the place. So if you guys have the capacity to help, even from as Miles said, even from interstate, that'll be really much appreciated.
Hey, testing. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, we can now. Welcome back.
All good.
Fantastic. No idea what happened there. Anyway, I'm back. Hey. So thank you so much. Does anyone have any comments or questions or thoughts about Perth or West Australian politics? All right, let's move on. So the next formal item of business is the announced motions, which includes constitutional amendments, policy amendments, and formal motions. We have no. Yep, correct. We have no formal motions this year. We have one policy motion and 3 constitutional amendment proposals. Let's do the. I'd like to do the policy motion first. Can we get that out of the way? I'll just check if the sponsor for that motion is able to or wants to join us on the Jitsi meeting to speak to it. All right, give us 1 minute while we get that set up and ready. So the first motion we'll be dealing with, and I'll bring this up on screen. First motion we are dealing with is the PM1 marriage policy update, put by Simon Nieslaw. I guess I'll read it out. So we want to replace the entire current marriage section and place a simplified version merged under the Australian Bill of Rights section. So under the Bill of Rights, people would have freedom to form close personal relationships with 2 or more consenting adults and choose whether to register their relationship with the state for legal recognition of marriage. Let me bring up the existing policy. Simon, are you ready to speak?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, you're very soft.
Is that better?
Much better. Okay.
Yep. I've just got some feedback. Hold on. Okay. Hi. So this is just a follow-up from previous National Congress, where I suggested that this policy should be sunsetted because it's not really relevant to current discourse in Australia of marriage. It's a very old topic, but that's already been settled. Where the outcome of that was that the LGBTIQA plus community of Australia fought very hard for their rights to be married, and looking at this outdated policy could give the wrong idea that we were trying to reduce that to a civil union.
Okay, we're back. We're back. I don't know what happened.
Testing. Oh. Okay, Simon, sorry, you're good to keep going.
Yep. So as I was saying, is um, the right for same-sex couples to be married is a right which was hard fought for, and I wouldn't want that to be reduced to civil union or something like that. So I thought the policy is outdated in the current context, and the reason why it didn't go through previously was there was some objections that this policy also added recognition of polyamorous couples of more than two partners. So the wording of this is to sunset or repeal the whole marriage policy, but in its place also add recognition for polyamorous couples in the Bill of Rights to have a right to be married and to be in a relationship in the structure that they see fit, and to have that state recognition if they choose to, because some people they care a lot about state recognition, even if it's not 100% the most libertarian or anarchist view possible. Some people still believe in recognition from the state as having meaning.
Okay, so what we'll do now is open the floor for any comments or suggestions or debate. So we have a formal comment from Jed. Comment, streamlining policy is nice, but this motion goes in the direction of not really involving the state in marriage or equivalent relationships at all by default, when the state definitely has interests there regarding taxes, spousal privilege, and property disputes. We've also have a proposal in chat to adjust the end to say legal recognition of their marriage or union.
So I'm happy to accept that adjustment. My opinion is that people should be able to call their relationship whatever they want, really. Like, so if they prefer the term union, that's quite fine. Also, to Jed B's comment, as far as legal ramifications of it, I believe that laws should be reflecting the realities of the situation, not just a legal registration of something. So that's already the case when it comes to Centrelink. They just look at the facts of what sort of situation you're in, rather than if you're signed a piece of paper or not. So the way that we have our policy, we're sort of looking for the best case scenario of how we want Australia and the world to look like. So ideally we'd want room for this, and the existing policy as it is now is to already support the polyamorous couples, and that would require some tweaking of all these different areas of law if that was to pass anyway. So I don't think it really makes any difference here.
Okay, I'll personal comment for myself. I strongly agree with the rationale that this needs an update in light of the same-sex marriage referendum and the legislation changes. That was a campaign that we joined in with, we supported, and it was a campaign that we won collectively. We Australians won that campaign. And I think there was a lot of a side sort of tangent as well, is that I think a lot of progressives in Australia were riding off the success of that still with the Voice referendum, assuming that it would have the similar sort of groundswell of support, an assumption which was mistaken, and a campaign that was mishandled on several levels. And that kind of arrogance we cannot allow in our campaigns in future. And so we have to acknowledge the situation on the ground and update our policy, update our strategy, update our plan according to what we think will be good and what works. So the flexibility, I think, of this approach is broadly good. I'll put a link to the the current policy which this proposes to replace. So that's up on the wiki, and I'll put that on the stream as well. So it's an important historical context that we supported same-sex marriage and also polyamorous unions long before most Australians did. I can remember Penny Wong, current foreign minister, who is herself famously gay and married, was for years voting against same-sex marriage simply on the basis that it's what the Conservatives in the Labor Party wanted at the time. And then when it became politically expedient, she simply switched on a dime. So Penny Wong might act with gravitas and dignity, but at the same time is simply a hack and a meaningless, shallow politician. Personal comment, not official party policy.
Miles, if I can throw something in, hanging around with the secular theme. One of the things was that Howard wanted to say marriage would be between a man and a woman, and that wasn't trying to exclude gays, but the principle was to try to prevent, Muslims from having one man with multiple wives coming from a religious background, and the accidental side effect of that was that it marginalised same-sex relationships. So people got themselves into a horrible knot about it. And that's part of the reason why Penny Wong actually voted in favour of John Howard's original marriage shall be between one man and one woman. It wasn't to try to marginalise gays or polyamorous people. It was more to do with, Muslims wanting to get married, one bloke getting married to more than one woman. Anyway,
so it wasn't so much homophobic. Instead, it was just racist.
If you prefer, yes, that's perhaps one way of looking at it.
I think I don't think it's really fair to consider that a secular issue, given that it was very explicitly a Christian conception of marriage in law in an attempt to outlaw a Muslim conception of marriage. Zach makes a good point that Islam is not a race, but I think there were. It's probably hard to deny there were racist overtones in there, given the prevalence of Islam within Arabic countries. Okay, I'll invite any final comments on the motion before we go to a vote.
I also just want to make an observation that there are many forms of relationships which have the potential to be abusive, and we already have laws, and we probably need more laws in some or some enforcement of the laws to regulate that. Where, like for example, I heard something in the news where in WA there was a forced marriage of two underage children, male and female, which was clearly abusive, and the federal police stepped in on that to prosecute. So that's a good outcome. So it's not the structure themselves that's necessarily automatically abusive, but the more the actual abuse itself. And so I don't think that we should be restricting people who consent to the relationships. And that's the major point, is that they must be capable of consent and to give consent. So this doesn't promote any sort of abuse. The consent is doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
comment from Alex Jago, Party Secretary. I was opposed to Simon's repeal proposal last year. I'm fine with this. Some comments from Zach seem to be critical of this proposal. I think Jed was critical of this proposal as well. I'd like to invite Zach or Jed to consider whether they want to make any proposals to amend this policy motion before we go to a vote. Formally speaking, once we've voted for the motion, then it's gone. We can't touch it again.
We've got a minor pending update from Zach. I'm not sure if Simon's formally.
Simon did accept it.
Okay.
So changing the end of it, instead of just legal recognition of their marriage, change it to legal recognition of their marriage or union. I typed that in chat. I don't know if it made it into the minutes though.
Just a question for Jeb. Should we add another sentence to the end of it, something to the effect of formal registration should not be the basis of how a law functions? For example, divorce. I mean, it's a bit hard to. I mean, we could take a break on this.
I think
to work out exact wording, but something to that effect. So is that what you'd be after?
I'm not Jed. I'm just commenting. Yeah, we need to keep this stuff for where you want to put it. We need to keep it.
Like, I wonder, like, is this a big deal or just making a comment?
I think Jed does want to propose some amendments. He's asked for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe we could just hold off on this topic, and I can work with Jed for some amendment, and then we can come back to this. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Given that we've just had a recess, how about we put a pause on this one? We can come back to it and move on to start addressing the constitutional amendment proposals.
Yeah, great.
There's Alex is nervous. Because these constitutional amendments, there's no guarantee that we will actually get through them quickly. There might be intense debate.
I would rather just take the hold.
Okay, Alex wants to pause for a hot minute. Yeah, okay. Well, we could go for a short recess. I feel like that'd probably be the way to do it rather than just sitting here and letting there be dead air.
Okay. Comment from Jed. I'm not sure if I could propose an amendment that wouldn't modify the motion too far beyond the spirit of what it already is. Yeah, I think there's a.
I think that if you give me 10 minutes, I could probably put something up that's in line of what he wants without making it too much longer.
Let's think about what we want to do here. We want consenting adults to be able to get married if they want to, call it, what they want, and for the state to recognize that, or if they want to recognize that, then the state will recognize that for certain purposes. And if we look at the current part of the platform, we'll note that there's a little bit more to that. Yep, as John says, giving people a choice. And the current platform goes a little bit beyond that and says, hey, marriage is something beyond any one organization. But it also goes much further and says, hey, look, from the perspective of the state, you can have a civil union. And then if you want to call that and then if you want to call your relationship a marriage, that's up to you. So the main point of contention is really about does the state get to call it a marriage or not? That I think that's what Simon's primary focus in putting this amendment is. Just saying, hey, look, we've had this fight, we've settled it. The state will, people can have their relationship, and the state will call it a marriage. But yeah, I'm in favor of the proposed change because it keeps all of the important bits, which, as John says, emphasize that we're giving people the choice of what they want to do. And as Simon says, there's plenty of places in the law already where we recognize de facto partnerships. And we will continue to do so. Actually, I'm sure this is a very boring moment for anyone watching the stream.
We don't have the text feed on stream this year.
Yeah, we don't. So I'll take this moment to shout out to everyone who's currently in the chat, and I will remind anyone watching that you can get on the chat. Simply click the link to the wiki page in the description of the video, and then one of the first links on that page there will take you to IRC or to Discord. And it's under the participation heading.
As the person that would be running, who is running the stream, that is correct. There's a bit of an issue actually with my software that I was using to currently connect to YouTube to actually run that's why the text stream isn't in there. We're just using the video because that's the import of the, in this case, Jitsi Meme, because that's the important part of it. The text stream was just a useful reference, so you knew how that it was happening. I would like to apologize and that for not getting that as set up as well as I would like. I thought maybe I could try again later. Maybe it's just something wrong with any new systems. I don't know. But right now, at least we know how it's working is working.
Well said. Oh, hang on, that didn't quite work.
Thanks, Mandrick. We got some continued debate in text chat. I think the gist of it is that
I think
Very
everyone-
nice comment from Simon. I'm just happy to say we sunsetted a policy, classic libertarian position. We are repealing laws,
Well, sort of.
repealing policies.
All right, so
The conversation is still going. I'm not sure that there's necessarily a debate or that it's progressing. I think it may be something we need to let people. I think we can either just bring this to a vote, or take it away and come back to it at another time. But I think either way.
I think I'd prefer to come back because I think where we failed last time is that we tried to push on too quickly without considering everyone's opinion. I'd rather get a consensus on this, and even if we have to come back, is it possible to come back to it even tomorrow, or is it has to be done?
Yeah, we
so
can go back to it tomorrow.
we've got plenty of time, so I don't think we need to force through on,
Okay.
on this
Okay.
one.
So
Alright.
for reference, I have update. I've made the initial text update for all union, and anything and Simon's second sentence wording we haven't agreed to yet. So that's not yet recognized anywhere, but that's not yet anywhere but on the Discord chat and on the IRC chat.
Sorry, I thought Simon had agreed to that change.
So there was one change, and then another possible change, which JedB would be happy with, and then a third question is: do we want this to be under the Bill of Rights section or not? I'm not sure the exact.
Or have a radically reduced marriage section. I think
Position is. Oh, yeah, so yeah.
Okay, we've got a number of competing text options now.
This
so-
is formally the space to debate it, but not necessarily the place to workshop changes.
Yeah, we're doing the classic thing of doing things a little bit late, but that's all right. We do have a bit of time, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, so we've got a new wording proposal from Zach. As a dot point, the right to form and conclude personal relationships with 2 or more consenting adults, with optional registration for state recognition of this union. New sentence: marriages moved outside of government purview, which would potentially need moving around, but I think that would fit best in the liberty and association part of the Bill of Rights section. Form, I do like form and conclude. Just sort of sneak support for divorce rights in there, which we thought was a settled issue 50 years ago, but apparently isn't. And so yeah, then with Zach's wording, as Simon is now raising in chat, the point of this is whether or not the government calls it a marriage, as was effectively the point of 2017.
But I mean, not to sort of go in circles, but calling it a marriage brings specific legal and financial implications. So that's
but the point of our
there's a lot of work going on there.
The point of our policy would be that all of the legal and financial obligations currently associated with marriage would hang off government recognition, no matter what it was called.
Yes.
And
Yep.
then we would, but also that we would simply call that a civil union, and we would invite people to call their relationship whatever they wanted to call it. Yeah, so Zach's proposal is in the spirit of our current policy as well. Yeah, I think we're not going to, I don't think we're going to reach consensus on this point of should the government call it a marriage versus should the government call it a union. I just think consensus is just not going to happen there. So we've got.
So I think it might be the time to move on and let this one play out for a little bit. You guys can keep debating it. Alternatively, Simon, you do have the right to take it straight to a vote now if you desire.
No, I'd rather let it play out.
Alrighty, let's move on to the next formal motion, which is Cap 1, enable member sharing information with Fusion for more purposes. So at the moment, so this is a very specific one. At the moment, Pirate member information is only shared with Fusion for the purpose of electoral registration, which has been twice with the Australian Electoral Commission for the purpose of registration at a federal level, and once with the Victorian Electoral Commission for the purpose of registration in the state of Victoria. So what this will do is essentially broaden the number of cases that Pirate Party will share member information with Fusion. The only information shared will be full members. So that is to say voting members. So that is to say Australian citizens who are eligible and registered to vote within Australia. It excludes underage members and non-citizens in Australia and international pirate supporters, and also people who are whose membership has expired, and people who are interested in supporting the party but have not decided to go for full membership, even if they are eligible, which is, there are many people who fit into those categories, and that's totally fine. So the majority of our member database will not be sent to Fusion because there's a lot of people in there who don't fit the category of full member. Alex, do you want to speak to this one a bit?
Yes, hang on, I'll just turn my camera on. And maybe also some lighting, so because I hear people like to see the beard. So, yeah, fundamentally, as I've mentioned in the rationale, and as Marcia said, we adopted a quite limited set of rules about what information could and couldn't be shared. Basically, just the bare minimum of what is needed to do our part in keeping Fusion registered. Having we set ourselves some limitations, and sure enough, the limitations are proving limiting. So I wrote in my rationale that all of these internal engagement processes, which would otherwise hang off the Fusion membership database, we are sort of half excluded from. Many of these internal engagement processes were developed by Miles, which is extra ironic. And we're generally split-brained. So what I'm proposing to do, as Miles noted, is to expand the number of options, expand the number of reasons for which membership can be shared, to allow for effectively routine bidirectional sync of Pirate full member data with the Fusion database. So the reason why I limit it to Pirate full member data is because that is there's a very deliberate crossover here. If you're a full member, you've got rights, but you also have the greatest responsibility to the party, including to help us stay registered or help Fusion stay registered, as the case may currently be. So this gives anyone who doesn't need to be synced. For example, if you're a permanent resident member or an international member, we don't need to sync you. You always have the option to go and register and go and share your contact information with Fusion separately if you really want to. Anyone who is only a supporter member, then you have fewer rights, but also fewer duties. Since you're only a supporter member, that means you might be a member of a competing party, and we want to make sure that we're not claiming you as one of ours for registration purposes. So yeah, the plan is with everyone's consent that we'll have a bidirectional sync. That sync will start several months in the future, assuming this all passes. In case anyone who really objects, you can downgrade your membership to supporter membership status or whatever. This will also necessitate an update of the party privacy policy, but that can be done, in the future and just by order of the National Council. So that's all fine. If you go to the wiki and you have a look at the constitutional amendment proposal notes for this, I've also linked the current version of Fusion's personally identifiable information data access agreement, which is quite comprehensive and limits what people can and can't do with the information that they have access to via the Fusion database. So I'll just run through the notes that I haven't covered off already. So for example, there's a PII agreement. There's a process for revocation of access. For example, I used to have access and now I currently don't. So I can confirm that revocation does happen. Our current
and just a point, you found out that I'd revoked your access to the Fusion database because you were trying to access Fusion members for a purpose which you legitimately needed to use them for. So that was an accidental revocation.
Yeah, so anyway, that's fun. So we already provide for data access, not just by the secretary, but also by other coordinators within the party. This is just sort of broadening that to within Fusion. Now there is one other thing to note. Fusion is incorporated in Victoria, and Victorian state law requires that when membership of an organization ceases, the organization has to retain your name and the date which you cease to be a member. So, if you are a pirate full member and you cease to be and your membership lapses or whatever, then a limited amount of information will need to be retained by law in the Fusion database, and this has technically always been the case. We just, now that we're touching it, we have to make sure it actually works properly. So yeah, I hope everyone will view this as a necessary step, as I do, and I hope for your support in getting this done so that we can be part of a more effective party. Minuting this is going to be fun. I think it might have to be brackets. Alex speaks extensively to the motion.
There is a hearty debate about the marriage union still going on. As nice as that is, I would like to draw everyone's attention to the motion on the floor, which is quite important for our continued functioning as a political movement. I don't think there's I don't think there's anything more we need to speak to this.
Yeah. If anyone present is in objection to this proposal, I would invite your comments.
I'm not. I'm not objecting, but I did make the comment that while I support the motion, I do hope that people will continue to strongly identify as pirates. So we can still swim in broader. We can ply our ships in wider waters while still hoisting the pirate flag. There you go.
So, comment from John: don't object to the motion, but you hope people still will strongly identify as pirates.
So there's a comment from Milspec there about the opt-out process. I think explicit is the right word. I think it's explicit in this proposal that the only way to opt out will be by resigning your pirate membership, and the reason for
downgrade to support.
Yeah. So yes, sorry. Strictly speaking, yes, you're correct. And so the reason for that strictness is that there's being a pirate member entitles you to specific rights within Fusion as a Fusion member, and it's very logistically difficult for Fusion to operate when it doesn't have visibility over the members of Fusion, which includes pirates. And so that's a administrative function of Fusion, which will benefit Fusion, as in addition to the benefits to campaigning for Fusion. All right, just so long as that was clear. And just for the sake of the stream as well, Milspecs 2 points where the people should be given adequate time to opt out, and during the sign-up process for Pirate Party, that it's clear that membership data is shared with Fusion, and that is the case. That is definitely and will continue to be the case. That I think on a pragmatic level, this is a relaxing of the extremely strict privacy protections that we've had, and that's done in large part for pragmatic reasons. There are some sort of ethical considerations as well, such as that to provide more visibility to Fusion, more transparency to Fusion, and more equality with Fusion members. Formal comment from Jed B. Comparing the proposed text to the existing text, mostly it's adding reasons C, D, and E, but I noticed the word sole has mysteriously disappeared from for the sole purpose of phrasing. I believe that's
that was intentional.
Yeah. Do you want to speak to that for a second, Alex?
Mostly, sole purposes was intentionally very restrictive. I think removing it, like we've got at this point we've got a pretty big list, and some of the and particularly item E, D, and E on the list are really open-ended already. I think at this point, sole, like the list is already so long that sole is sort of, it's not really the right word. For the sole purposes of these 10 items, it's like, okay, well, that's a lot of items, and it's pretty much everything that we would want to do. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is,
but to
yeah,
clarify,
I did think about the word sole, and I was like, okay, yep. But the list is so long, and it's everything. The list is basically at this point everything that the party might want to do.
Yeah, I think so. I think the word sole there is redundant. That definitionally this is an exclusive list. That only these 5 purposes will apply. So yeah, Zach's saying sole is superfluous. Yeah, you're right. So only these 5 purposes will apply. Nothing outside of these purposes. But obviously these purposes are fairly broad, or at least much broader than previously.
Yeah, thanks. Superfluous is indeed the word that I couldn't think of. Yeah. Thanks, Zach.
All right, I think we're about ready to take this to a vote. I'll give a moment to allow final discussion or comments.
Yep, as a procedural guy, I will also note that this vote is not the be all and end all. We will still have the online vote in a bit, well, following the conclusion of Congress. So this floor vote is simply should the motion proceed to the full membership for online vote. Just to remind anyone who is unfamiliar with or may have forgotten the process at this point. And if you vote against this, then understandable. It is a quite major change.
Mandrake is proposing to use the word express. I think that is also superfluous. That what we can express in less words is generally better than using more. Okay, I'd like to start voting.
Yeah, I don't think the only express sole things will have any functional limitation. Like what I've tried to do here is list everything which I think is reasonable and convenient to do with membership information in a party, and then at this point the list is quite big, so I don't think there's really much point in limiting it.
Just waiting for
when we get down to it, it's okay. So
Alex, do you want to respond to that?
Reading, it's not superfluous unless there's a statement elsewhere that restricts data sharing. Okay, there's the general context of everything, but So you're suggesting that proposal as worded is a lower bound rather than an exact bound. Yeah, okay. I take that comment.
There should be other areas of party policy that do provide that restrictions.
Yeah, but none of them are in this sort of manner.
Our formal privacy policy hasn't been updated since 2012.
Correct. It will need to be substantially updated following this. For a number of reasons, but especially this. Okay, yeah. Zach, Jedi, Mandrake, I take your comments about lower bound versus exact bound in my terminology.
This privacy policy is authorized by the National Council, so it's so it doesn't override the Constitution, but can be updated by the National Council to provide additional restrictions.
Double check my. Let me double check our options for cap. Okay, so our options for modifying cap wording are pretty limiting. I intended this as an exact bound. Yeah, I intended this as an exact bound, but some of the things bound are also very general. The question is, yeah. Okay, question from Zach. If detail sharing is not limited anywhere to these purposes, why include it at all? Okay, so the previous part of the Constitution set a very strict upper bound on what details we could share. So I want to change that to make it very clear to everyone that yes, we do have to share some information just as a necessary part of being a party. Obviously, what this specific proposal does is increases the number of things which can be shared. And yeah, our previous privacy policy and our previous practice was to share as little as possible, which is a worthy goal, but also quite crippling. Yep, Simon. If you, I'll happily yield the floor to you.
Hey, so just with this topic, just from my perspective, I've been working a lot on the fusion side of things, as that's where the main campaign activity should be held, because it brings in more people into the campaigns, and we are effectively, the same team as part of Fusion. So just from my experience working with Fusion and not having access to pirate membership, it does add extra layers of friction, I suppose, in being able to find volunteers, and there could be people in the pirate database who could be quite interested in helping out at a fusion level, but we can't access it because the privacy controls are so strict, and it does also lead to a bit of friction within fusion as well, where others from other branches may feel like we're deliberately trying to hold out on them, even though it's because of the data privacy issue, which they do understand as well, but it's still it's not as seamless as what I think it should be. So I highly support moves that with consent of the members that we can move them straight into fusion, and we can act as a cohesive unit for our campaigns.
Thank you, Simon.
Zach, Jed, I take your comments on this. I'm happy to put, some sort of limitation back in there, because to sort of try and get it back to being an exact bound. Okay. So comment from Zaki, the data sharing is covered by the Constitution or 14.2. Second part is useless legally and only informative. My proposed wording is relevant member details will be shared within the coalition, but only for the purposes of yada, yada, yada. If that's acceptable, then I think we can proceed. Like, if you're opposed to data sharing generally, then you're opposed to data sharing generally, and that's, your opinion. But if you're concerned about the specific point of wording, then cool. Yeah. So restriction. Yeah, cool. I think this satisfies everyone. I wanted in the Constitution to make it clear that this data sharing does have to happen. And like Zach, I appreciate limitations on what data can be shared, even if those limitations are quite broad. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I'll minute this.
So, Alex, are you happy for us to go to a vote?
Yeah, hang on. I'm just minuting. Cool. I will now edit the motions page on the wiki. And I invite interested members to I'll paste a link to the diff in the chat. Oh, hang on. That's that was not the entire link. Hang on. Let's paste the longer link there. Will it all work? Oh, copy. There we go. The second link there. Which should do what we need to do.
So, Alex, do you want to place the motion or should I?
I will place the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Look at me using the subjunctive tense.
So good. Okay, we'll give that a minute to go through.
Welcome back, Gold.
How you doing, buddy? Okay, close votes there. Motion passes. So the next cap on the agenda is cap -2. Again, more in a very similar vein.
Hang on, let me just.
You right, Alex?
Yeah, I'm just checking that Gold's membership hasn't expired, which it hasn't. Good
Okay.
times.
Damn, that'd be awkward.
Yeah, it's a resolvable problem.
What do you got against my buddy Gold?
Nothing. I just have things against people voting when they're not current members when they could renew their membership with the click of a button.
It's very
It's all good.
convenient. Very convenient.
Yep, I can confirm that everyone voting right now is a member, which is where we want to be. Cool.
Okay. So a motion
Thanks,
number.
everyone.
All good?
Motion carried at 12:09. Yep, we're good to get to cap 2.
All right. So Cap 2 membership qualification. This is to clarify a potential issue with membership clash between Fusion and Pirates. This is related, but strictly a separate issue, I believe. But it should be fairly straightforward. It's just that it's just to clarify that there's no issues here with being Pirate and Fusion member.
So this is, so we passed this cleans up something that we passed last year at Simon's initiative. And I felt that the wording could be improved a bit, hence this particular cap. So the current...
Okay, I think we're back. Yep. Okay, sorry, go on, Alex.
We are indeed back. Okay, yeah. So so this so there's the current wording of 4.11c reads, is not currently a member of any other registered or unregistered political party in Australia, which goes against the principles and objects of the party, and with the exception of Fusion, does not use your membership for AEC registration purposes. So it's, you know, A, it's a bit clunky, B, it mentions Fusion directly, which, you know, I don't see us joining a different electoral coalition anytime soon, but I would like to not mention other organizations directly when we can avoid it. So I propose to streamline that all the way down to are not currently members for electoral registration purposes of any other political party in Australia. And I think that captures everything that we really care about there. Like there is the point about the principles and objects of the party, which I guess we are dropping that requirement, but I don't think it's really going to be a problem in practice. Like you've still by joining the party, you're still reading and agreeing to all of the terms and principles within our constitution. So, you know, if you're a member of two different parties with very conflicting principles, then I think either party has a right to kick you out. So I feel like that's sort of already covered. And I also want to add, so the other half of 4.11c as it currently stands has a carve out for Fusion to be membership, as regarding membership. So I want to instead cover that down in the electoral coalition section of our party constitution, which says to say, hey, membership of an affiliated electoral coalition doesn't prevent membership under 4.11c, but full members, parenthetically, of this party must be considered primarily members of this party within the coalition. So it says, hey, look, you can be a member of Fusion independently of being a member of the Pirates, but if you want to be a full member of the Pirates, you have to be considered a pirate primarily within Fusion, which I think is, you know, fair and reasonable and in line with everyone's expectation of how these things work. We also never really needed to carve out permission for non-pirate Fusion members to join us as anything up. You know, they could always join us as supporter members, and they already have supporter privileges. It's just to say, to cover any issues where you're directly a member of Fusion and you're also a pirate full member, to say, yep, that's all good, as long as you are primarily, yeah, as long, if you're a full member, then Fusion has to consider you a pirate. So you can't, I guess at Fusion level, they can sort of deduplicate anyway, but what we're saying is, if you want to be, what we're saying is if you want to be a full member of the Pirate Party, then you need to, within Fusion, be considered a full member. You need to be considered primarily a pirate. This is I guess the closest thing we have to an anti-stacking measure. Like if everyone in the Science Party came along and joined the pirates, A, that would be cool, but B, they would outnumber us by quite a bit.
There was a couple of suggestions for additive membership of branches within Fusion for a while, but
yes, but that's not currently where the situation sits. Is there a provision where they could join without voting rights? Yes, they could become a supporter member.
didn't we determine that Fusion non-pirates will automatically supporter members of pirates, or is
And they automatically have supporter privileges anyway? Yes.
okay? So they gain supporter privileges, or they gain supporter membership, or it doesn't matter.
Well, every full member, everyone who counts as a member of Fusion for electoral registry purposes, automatically has supporter privileges within the pirates. That doesn't change. You could also choose to join the pirates as a supporter membership explicitly, and you would have the same amount of rights, but a slightly better relationship.
You would get emails and newsletters and stuff,
and then you get anything which we send out directly, and you'd have a direct relationship with the party rather than sort of, I guess, inherited privileges. And then if you're in a different part of Fusion, then you can switch over to us, as long as you are then considered, one of us within Fusion as well, as opposed to being primarily in whatever party you were previously in. So yeah, just saying, hey, look, if you want to be a full member of the Pirate Party, then you have to, then your primary allegiance goes to us, and that has to be known within the coalition.
Any more comments or questions on this one, or are you ready to go to a vote? This should be fairly clear, I think.
I really need to stop being the one who's putting all the caps, or else I need to get someone else to take minutes at this point.
Okay, how about I put this motion then?
Well, damage is already done.
Okay, I'm placing the motion. Start your votes.
Welcome back, Dr. Liam. And also McClellan. Hang on. Let me just make sure that you're valid. Brill. Yeah. I know that we verified you somewhere along the line. Cool. So, hang on, let me just count for the minutes.
Sorry, I was muted there. Motion passes. Moving on to Cap 3 pre-selection. So we're kind of streamlining here by making the pirate unique process redundant. We do have the most stringent and longest pre-selection process of all the branches, and it's complicated things in the past. So this will streamline the process, make campaigns a little bit easier, and again also be more inclusive and fair towards pirate members and other fusion members by standardizing all our processes. Does anyone have any comments or thoughts on this one?
So functionally what this proposal does is the Fusion is running a centralized joint pre-selection process. Then we can outsource to that process without having to first put pirate members through our own internal pre-selection process. We can just say, hey, look, go and participate in the Fusion level process, and have that allow the party to endorse you as a result of that. There's also a what I can only imagine was a long-standing wording error, which implied that only a National Congress could be a pre-selection meeting. I'm not sure that's ever happened in my time in the party.
Maybe the intent for that one was for us to have our candidates well in advance.
Yes.
There's been many stabs at that over the years. Formal comment from Simon. Simon, do you want to speak that to the stream?
Yeah, Jed, that comment.
You passed it, and that's great. And for anyone else who might be seeing in later when these votes go out to full membership vote, I also just want to add that there is a lot of overhead connecting between Fusion and pirates. A lot of the comms that we want to send out, not just the monthly newsletter, but sometimes we want to put some extra comms in between for a particular campaign. It all has to go through Alex to resend it to the pirate membership database. And personally, I don't think it's fair on Alex just to have to do that extra work. Sometimes it might not be available straight away. It might be a call out.
I mean, I did literally
So
sign up for this.
It's all gonna. Yeah, he didn't sign up for that, and
I did though.
Well, yes and no, but but it's all the end result anyway. So, I don't see why it even should have to go through extra steps if in the end everyone's still going to receive it.
Yeah.
So
it's
just pointless extra work.
Yeah. Jed's comment aligns with Miles's earlier comment around the 7.3 mention of National Congress rather than pre-selection meeting. Probably is to align with 7.5, in which we would really like to have our candidates selected at least 12 months before the normal time of the next election.
I also know that we do have one candidate who's already been pre-selected,
Yes.
Owen Miller for Wills.
Yeah.
And if anyone else wants to formally put their hand up, please do so.
Because I don't know when 7.3 was adopted in its current format, but if you look back on the wiki at the proceedings of previous congresses, right? like at 12, for example, at 2012, then okay, well, the minutes aren't actually linked from that, but I don't think they I don't think they considered candidates. They didn't consider candidates at that National Congress. We didn't. I don't. Let's see if we considered candidates at okay, the 2013 Congress had the option for presentations by pre-selection candidates, if any. And it
So I think there doesn't seem to be much
and I
debate.
don't think there was any of that, but so let me just check 2014.
I think we're basically ready to go to a vote.
Yeah, I don't think we've really ever had pre-selection candidates considered at a Congress. And also, you know, we can designate a Congress as a pre-selection meeting if we want to. That's provided for. So I think it makes sense to tie everything as hanging off the pre-selection meeting rather than hanging off the Congress.
Shall we go to a vote?
I would enjoy nothing more.
Would you enjoy something less?
Yeah, further comment from Jed that Congress has on several occasions, almost every occasion, I would add, threatened to go over time with extensive debates over policy proposals. So adding pre-selection to that is potentially a bit troublesome.
Place your votes.
And Miles is like, we're going to vote.
Let's go. All right, give me that one a minute. So while that one is ticking through, we're getting pretty close to lunchtime. And nicely enough, we have completed the constitutional amendment proposals. Can I get some feedback from Simon? Do you think we could vote on your policy amendment before lunch, or should we just break to lunch and you can have a longer discussion over it?
I think we could do it first thing after lunch, but I have had some chats with a few people and progressed. It may be that it might be a bit too long to consider it a dot point under Bill of Rights. It might be a replacement of the existing marriage policy. So, you know,
Okay.
might not have that claim of completely removing a policy, but I think it would still encapsulate more of what we're doing. So,
Alright.
yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it after lunch.
Well, in that case, I think it gets back to the regular agenda, right? yeah, I think it's. Yeah. Let's
Okay, so that
give
motion
ourselves some time over
passed.
lunch,
The
and then we'll come back and we'll think about this after lunch, and then once we've finished thinking about that, we're done for the day.
fantastic. So let's go on break. There is another discussion item potentially we could go to after lunch, which I'll hopefully be able to clarify and finalize over lunch. But in the meantime, I'll put a motion now, adjourned for 1 hour. Place your votes to break for lunch for 1 hour. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll return at 1:32 p.m. Australian East Coast Standard Time, and let's go to a splash screen on the stream. Thanks, guys. See you later.
It should now be on just splash screen.
Yep, I confirm we're live. You can bring video and audio back.
Okay.
Welcome and thanks to guys for joining us as well on the Jitsi. Okay, we've got signal on the stream, waiting for video and audio. Okay, I think we've got video and audio now. Should be coming up on the stream any moment. Do.
We are definitely back.
Okay, so we've got a bit of business to get on with. And what we're going to do is move into resolving the first bit of business from this morning to finish off with. We have, we're going to revisit policy motion 1, which is the marriage policy put by Simon Nisler. I'll just bring up a screen share. If you give me a hot minute. Here we go. And then I'll invite Simon to take the floor.
You ready for me?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess I'll start with that there's an updated wording in the chat that isn't reflected on the wiki yet, but I'll just read that out, which is freedom to form and conclude close personal relationships between two or more consenting adults and choose whether to register them with the state as a marriage union or not at all. Registration should be entirely separate from religious marriages. All other laws relevant to relationships should reflect the realities of the situation, regardless of registration status. So how we derive by that, we had a bit of some robust discussions. I think most importantly is more of a philosophical one, where I'll just sort of repeat what I said on Discord here, where we are like a more of a libertarian civil rights kind of party where we want to remove government as much as possible from our personal lives and not have government control us. And that's often in conflict with people who are more of a status who actively want the government to have in control with our lives. So we as part of this, we're also very accepting and open to other people's point of views. So it is a bit hypocritical of us if we were to continue to go down the path of saying, no, we should remove marriage completely from government, because that would be telling other people what they can and can't do. And in the context of the plebiscite, that was something that was very hard fought for by those who want government to allow specifically marriage to be in law to same-sex couples. So I think because it's got that plebiscite weight behind it, where it's the will of the people, that most people in Australia actively want this, and this was, you know, a very core point to that campaign, that they don't want it taken away out of government. They don't want it to be less than marriage. I think that we have a good middle ground here where it's a choice of whether a relationship group, you know, or a couple or however it is, want to do that or not.
Hi, I'd like to make a personal comment. There's one specific point which I have a weak disagreement with, and that's the notion that what we're trying to do here in terms of government policy has implications for individual rights. I think I weakly disagree with what you're trying to say there, Simon, because fundamentally government impacts all of us. So it's more of an issue of collective rights rather than individual ones. And I think it's kind of a category error to say that government doing one thing is, us changing the government to do one thing is by itself a breach of individual rights. So I think the debate should be focused more around what is the end state in society that we want. How can we structure government in order to how can we change government in order to bring about the society that we want? So let's open up other comments as well. Is there a specific, Alex, have you reformatted the wiki motion to the latest version?
Not yet. I wanted it to be, generally accepted on the floor that this is the current version of the text.
So if I'm happy to go with subpoints that you asked for, to break up those sentences into
if the intention
subpoints,
is
it's fine.
if the intention is to put it in the Bill of Rights section still, then that's just my opinion on what would work best.
I think most people agree that Bill of Rights is acceptable, unless and please, anytime if anyone's got any strong objections to this, either or even weak objections that want to be noted, please participate in the Discord right now. I guess in the words of marriages, how they normally work is please speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, I mean, not actually true. It's always
until the next National Congress.
Yeah, exactly. So forever being till the next National Congress. But yeah, I would appreciate if anyone has any objections to this particular wording or any finer points, if they could please make it known. I'd rather get this through by consensus than to force it through. And I have had private Discord chats with some people to bring it to a level that everyone is happy with. So this is the minimum wording that we could keep everyone happy.
Personal comment from me. I think I was in favor of the original motion. I'm in favor of this motion as well.
It should be updated on the wiki now. So Miles, if you hit reload on that. it should appear.
I have one uncertainty, which is under the new wording, laws relevant to relationships to reflect the realities of the situation. That feels very, very vague, and that makes me a little concerned.
So I don't want it to be too wordy because it was originally intended to be a dot point, but that's why I guess it is intentionally vague. But it's just saying, you know, there's other laws that do factor in marriage, where like to do with taxation, immigration, Centrelink, divorces, families. So, but like a lot of these things already consider that a lot of modern Australian family units do not already get legally married. There's a lot of de facto relationships out there, and a lot of the laws are already doing this. Where, you know, for example, with a divorce, if there's children involved, they look at what the best interest of the child is rather than whether it was actually a marriage or not. You know, Centrelink, whether they're living together and for how long, or immigration, or if it's a genuine relationship or not, and or whether it's something being done for the purpose of gaming the system. So it is already like that in a lot of cases. So this is just making it clear that we support that approach of what the reality of the situation is, as opposed to what a piece of paper says that they are or aren't.
Okay, Alex, do you want to speak next?
Yeah, so I've got a proposed alternative for sentence 3, which is a bit shorter, which is, in short, provide that laws relevant to relationships consider de facto status, not registration. Which is, you know, just throw in an alternative out for people who are slightly concerned with 3. That might be a slightly better option for it, but not a huge deal.
Owen, do you want to speak next?
Yeah, Simon, I'm a bit uneasy how it seems to leave the room open for incest to become legal. No,
it says consent. So there's some sort of relationships there that are not capable of giving consent. So it's
but the incest between adults. And
I don't think it's legally possible to give consent in that sort of relationship. So that's like a different debate, but I'm not getting into. I'm using the word consent to do a lot of heavy lifting here for unethical or uncertain relationship types.
Oh, because that was my other concern. Like when we say the reality of the situation, isn't it effectively saying, like, we didn't want them to be a couple, it's against the law, but hey, they're a couple now?
I think you're reading too far into it.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still eating. Simon, I found your explanation utterly unconvincing, and that makes me want to vote against this now. However, Alex's amendment I actually like. So when you say laws should reflect the reality of the situation, that sounds to me like someone saying, oh, it's just common sense. And then they give the most unhinged conspiratorial rant ever. That's what I hear when you say reflect the realities of the situation.
Sure. Well, I'm just updating that. I accept. Yeah, sure. I accept Alex's suggestion. As I was speaking, I was just updating that now. So just give me about another 10 seconds or so.
Okay.
I should have an updated wording.
I'm happy with putting in de facto. I mean, I think it might introduce problems later down the road, because my understanding of de facto relationships is that they're very ambiguous and often determined in court as opposed to anywhere else. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but there could be further improvements, but at least I think that's workable for now.
So I think in general, relying on a registration is a bit of a problem, where that opens things up to gaming various systems. or even even if it's a benefit for someone, someone might not register and miss out on a benefit. So I'd rather not rely on that. And yeah.
Well, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. We could spend forever tweaking it, but I think I'm happy with Alex's wording as it's.
So I've put in updated wording. So I said
That's
all
not what I
other
meant.
laws relevant to relationships should consider all such relationships as de facto, regardless of registration status.
That's not what I meant.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's maybe what I meant, but it's worded. Yeah, I see what you're getting at, but as you can see on my initial reading, I interpreted it as being the opposite of what I meant. So that's fun. Got a new sentence 3.
Alex is just working on an updated wording here, going into
Sure.
the Discord chat.
So this is assuming the dot point formatting.
Okay, sure.
To be honest, I think that conflicts with the first dot point, or has implications which aren't necessarily desirable.
Yeah, this is the trouble, right? Like, what's the point of having, if like the purpose of the state in recognizing a relationship is that the relationship is then legible to the state.
So I'm just gonna put in the Discord. Is just tell me if this is adequate for point 3.
I think this is getting too much into the detail, and if we simplify, we can avoid this whole issue. Potentially, we just include the first dot point, remove 2 and 3.
So I think 2 needs to be included to satisfy everyone. 3 also. I don't think we can remove them entirely. It'd be too simple. There needs to be a little bit of nuance here.
I'm not really convinced.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, like we're talking about what should be in the Bill of Rights, right? So we're not saying, like, we can talk about what should be in the Bill of Rights without having to talk about, if something can be in the Bill of Rights, and we can also have a separate law which covers the minutiae of the situation. And we can say that you should have the right to be in a relationship and register it with the state without having to talk about, all the details about, how the state should deal with that registration.
So just with the Discord chat, I've put in another suggestion. All relationship-related laws should treat all relationship types equally, regardless of registration status. Does that work?
I think that goes too far, because all relationship types would cover everything down from like, hey, we've been on like 3 dates. in a in a contested reading, right? Our relationship type, our relationship type has been that we slept together once, versus our relationship type has been that we got married and have been married for 20 years. That there's a bit of a difference there.
So I just also want to put this into perspective, that this is also like a party policy where we're signaling the sort of things that we support, as opposed to being an actual law up for debate, but it's actually going to go through without any further discussion. So
if we're
we just need to convey what we actually support, as opposed to actually making laws here, right? And pulling it apart as if we were lawyers in a proceeding or something.
Yeah, look, I'm going back to your original text. I think point 2 is implied by point 1. You can if point 1 is saying that you register it with the state as a marriage, I guess, then it's like a marriage or a union. Then it's suggesting that there's a number of different things that you can call your relationship.
Okay, I might have something here. Just give me a second. Okay, here's another one. What do you think of that one, Alex?
Yeah, so registration is purely symbolic, and all of the laws should just be purely considering de facto what we would purely be based on de facto tests.
Exactly. That's the intent. Are you happy with that wording?
Won't that run the risk of a huge amount of additional overhead by forcing things through the de facto marriage process in order to get any kind of legal relevance?
I don't think so, because a lot of the laws are already basically doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it might be it might be more intellectually honest to say that registration would become is purely symbolic.
Okay.
But I don't know, like.
I mean, it is, but to also say that could also be seen as diminishing the value of it. So
yeah, so
it'd be more of a rationale thing. I would say.
Let's look at this a different way. We want, and we want both as an object level thing and as a signaling thing to say that everyone should be able to have whatever sort of relationship they want to have, as long as they're capable of consenting to it. That makes sense to go in the Bill of Rights. Do we care to the same degree and in the same fashion that registering this relationship with the state should be purely symbolic, or do we want to maintain some differences between registered relationships and non-registered relationships, given that the state does have an interest in things being legible to it?
Did you want to put in something like registration is symbolic but still holds great value to those who register?
Well, like I guess the question is, we want to take a position on having on like, hey, anyone can get in a relationship and and it has the ability and should be allowed to register that relationship with the state. Maybe we can, for the purposes of this policy and for the purposes of doing literally anything else with our lives today, we could not take a position on whether registration actually means anything.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
And just leave that to the status quo and or another day.
Yeah, just leave it open ended is fine with me. Like I'd rather say less than more. Like the whole aim is to sunset the main policy. So if we're going to formulate a whole big other policy, it's not really achieving that outcome.
So just for my minuting, we're decomposing two issues here. One, can a set of consenting adults register their relationship with the state? Yes, we want that. And so
just to confirm, I'm just going to repost the whole proposal of where I think we're at.
So what is out of scope for this debate is all of the other laws that are impacted by or somehow play with marriage / relationship status, which is currently defined as marriage. So that all exists, and we have to account for that interaction somehow.
So that is being considered as part of other laws should not consider relationship registration status itself.
But those laws, that whole definition hinges on the existence of formal relationships. So what will relationship status be? What will we replace with that registration?
It's about the registration of the relationship, not the relations. So I can reword that third point again. Just give me a second to clarify that.
I hate to keep drawing this out, but I just don't find that convincing because you've got the government and many laws interact with formal relationship status in many ways, and it just seems like a no-brainer to me that there would be a registration process in order to enact those interactions. Otherwise, we're simply saying, oh, well, we're going to do a bunch of stuff for a certain class of people. We're going to define what that people are. We're going to make it very vague and open to interpretation.
It's already something that's already open to gaming and so on. It's people are already making families and stuff without being married. So
there's a lot of laws which need to consider de facto relationships. I think in my ideal world, everything would look at de facto status rather than registered status. But at the same time, as people have noted, assessing de facto status is resource intensive and not always possible to do.
We've can we like who it said? Jed proposed leaving the last dot point out, which I'm in favour of.
Yeah. So this is again we're decomposing the issue on is registration purely symbolic or not, and saying, okay, we're gonna leave that out for today, and we can always come back to it, right? And I'm sure we will.
Good. I think that's a good point about a family unit as opposed to a relationship status between the head couples of the unit, the head people of the unit. So I'm just going to update again. So if we were to have a third dot point there, it could be other laws related to relationships should consider family units, not registration statuses. Does that work?
As always, Sean comes in with a idea that's that's different to mine. So Sean,
I actually agree with Sean there. I think it's a whole lot simpler if we just push it all onto the registration status.
Sean, right? So yeah, Sean
Decouple
writes
that from religion.
For anyone who is bizarrely following the stream but not following the text chat, my earlier world would probably have no de facto status, and people would decide whether they wanted the state to care about their relationship or not via registration. And from there's a certain perspective I have which is sympathetic to that. The state should render unto Caesar.
Okay, so just to move things along a bit, what I think I'll do is I'll just repost what the current wording is again, and perhaps we could have an indicative vote on whether point 3 should be included in that proposal or not. Like a non-binding thing. Do we have is indicative vote the correct wording? I'm not sure, but just I just want to get a sense of if most people think that should be said or not.
Yeah. Yeah, indicatively, I'm now leaning. I realized I proposed half of the. I realized I made several proposals for option 3, but I think it's going to be cleaner if we leave it out. For the purposes of saying, hey, look, we want to have state recognized relationships for any set of consenting adults, and then we can talk about how we want them to be treated relative to de facto relationships, with different policy. If we end up developing a large amount of policy around how de facto relationships should be treated, then we can pull that back together into a different marriage and relationships policy.
So what's the?
I think the sense is most people are saying to take it off. Should we have something there related to make it clearer? Not that it's not to take away from any protections against abuse, or are we okay with that?
What do you mean? What do you mean abuse? You're trying to solve?
Like Owen said, brought up that it could be interpreted as a support of incest, as an example.
I don't think so. There are already other restrictions in place to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, so do we need to be explicit to point out something like its policy should not affect other laws or protections against abuse?
I don't think so. It should be implicit.
Oh yeah, I thought so too, but I was just getting a check. So I'll just wait for the current commenters who are typing to finish what they have to say. So Jed B says, Bill of Rights section is intentionally left vague and minimalist. And I think there's a couple more coming through. McLovin thinks that it should be stated that, I think that's in reference to the policy should not affect other laws or protections against abuse. He wants that to be more explicit. Zach says if this was to be taken as a legal document, it would need to include a carve out, but this is a platform and doesn't need including. So I think at this stage, I probably lean based on this feedback that probably most of us would want to just take out a third point and just leave that without being explicit. Like I don't think we are the sort of party that would sort of, who would ever want to promote anything abusive anyway. So it shouldn't be implied or assumed that we would. So I think just leave it to the first two. I'll just put it like again of what it is to just one sub dot point about registration should be entirely separate from religious marriages, and we'll just leave it at that. Keep it simple, and hopefully no one makes any assumptions about things that aren't even being said.
Simpler is probably better. Leave it a little bit less less specific or structuralist. It's a statement of intent and principle, I guess, as much as anything, especially given that this is the Bill of Rights section.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Final comment from Sean, and then we'll go to a vote.
So if everyone's happy with this wording, then do we need to do anything on the wiki for that, or is that already there?
I will need. So this is just deleting the third sentence, right?
I believe so. I'll just check the wiki myself and just double check it.
Yeah, it looks the same to me.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Cool.
Okay, so just waiting for Sean to finish his comment, and then I think we'd be ready to go for a vote. So Sean says no worries. He was just looking at alternative wordings. He's still typing something.
I think we're
He stopped typing. So yeah, I think we're good to go for a vote. Thanks everyone.
Simon, do you want to place the motion?
I'm not good with the wording of motions, so
I will
should do it.
place it.
Thanks, Alex.
I will
Okay, start voting.
I believe that this is the motion Simon would put if
Yeah, it looks good
if
to
he
me.
could use the subjunctive tense. I mean, it's not actually normal pirate procedure to use this particular style of motions anyway. I just been fancy.
I dig it.
Normally, our
just-
motions
just-
are things like motion adopt PM1.
Mhm.
Just on a personal note, when if this passes, I'll just say it would be personally a bit of a relief to me that the old marriage policy has always been a point that hasn't sit well with me. So if this would bring my alignment with Pirate Party policy up to 100% rather than 99%. So thank
That
you,
seems
everyone.
unrealistic.
Hey, look, we have a contested motion. Jeez, I haven't had to think about this for a while. Okay. What? Yeah, I can also see this getting split back off into a separate policy again, but I think it's good to cut it down.
I would I'm not that fast whether it's a dot point under Bill of Rights or it's its own policy but cut down, but I wouldn't want it to fail based on a small detail like that. I think as long as in principle it's the thing that we would support, then that's the main thing, because we're using the whole platform to signal what we stand for.
Oh wait, hang on, I voted twice here. Fuck, what do I want? I'll go back to being an I. It's easier.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it.
It's less for me to minute.
So is this voting on the actual amended policy itself, or is this a motion to update the policy and then we do another vote?
No, this is repeal 2.5 and stick these 2 dot points in 2.7.
Okay, so if this passes, then that goes to the
we're done. We're sorted. We can stop thinking about PM1 now.
Okay, cool. Oh, thank God. Thank you all.
Okay, so let's stop voting and figure that out. I think that passes.
Yes, this goes to full member vote next.
Yep. So it'll go to the full member vote.
As amended.
As amended.
you.
All right.
Hang on, we've got 2 nays. Yes. Okay. Yay! We can think about literally anything else.
Well done, guys. Now, next, we have offered to host a discussion of digital rights and some core aspects of the pirate policy. Unfortunately, because this policy motion went over time, we've actually lost Owen now. He had to go to another event. I messed up the schedule in there, but I still want to say a few words myself. I'm looking for. Sorry, I can't find what I was trying to read. Here we go. Found it. Okay, so let me do a little bit of a screen share. So we don't have to spend super long on this, but I just wanted to present some of the core values and ideals behind the Pirate Party movement internationally, things that kind of inspired us. So the this was produced by Rick Falkfinger, I believe, in 2012, so 12 years ago. But to a great extent, it's still very, very accurate and useful in sort of conceptualizing what the core of pirate politics are. And so this is one way to look at it. It's not the only way to look at it, and it's not always the correct way to look at it, but it is one way to sort of encapsulate things. And so there's a really nice way to start where we kind of look at this concept of empowerment, that we want everyone to be able to participate in society and feel empowered to do so, because it's not necessarily an automatic thing. And having agency, having ability to do things, to express yourself, to exist and have an identity requires a certain amount of power of yourself in your life. And so how do we get that power? How do we empower people? Well, then here are the 8 spokes of the pirate wheel. Privacy, transparency, TICS, humanism, diversity, resilience, swarm economy, and quality legislation or quality governance. So there's a lot of detail to go into here. Here in Australia, we're obviously very concerned about privacy. That one has come up many times. On a personal level, I feel a close connection to TICS here. The free exchange of tools, ideas, culture, knowledge, and sentiments. That this is one that I've personally campaigned for quite a lot and I advocate for very heavily, particularly if we're looking at open data and open source as something who, as a web developer, as a software engineer, is something that I also advocate for and engage in. That free access to technology, to the tools to build things, and open source and open data. So the rest of this is also very important as well. Another big thing in Australia, which the Australian Pirates are really concerned about, is economic reform. And so I guess this is more sort of a sentiment or a principle than anything else. But this concept of swarm economy is that people, not corporations, make the economy work. And so kind of it comes back a lot to this. And when we look at swarm-wise organizing, which we in Australia don't do a little bit, not so much, but we do a little bit, then there is a heavy emphasis on volunteer work and on valuing the contribution of the individual as part of the group or part of the whole or part of some part of the swarm. And so obviously we don't or very rarely have paid positions. There is always an option, but at this stage we've managed to scrape by without it and don't have the resources to do it very much. So what I'd like to do is open the floor now to talk a little bit more about other areas which people want to bring up or things that they feel really passionate about in terms of pirate politics, whether in Australia or how that relates back to politics. Who wants to go next? Max, I think I cut you off before.
Yeah, I've got the idea, but it was like, more like explaining the interest in the topic and how to promote these ideas with the younger generation. Like, it's probably not the framework discussion. I think maybe we could put it aside. I don't know, but I've got a few ideas how to promote this, like, how to promote these ideas about, like, digital freedoms and like to engage people. And that's what I want to do, right? I want to engage people around this problem, because like heaps of kids, like, heaps of people around me, like everyone I'm talking to, right? All my circles, they have an interest, but there is no action points. Like, the best thing we could do is just to discuss. I just want to move from the discussion to the actual points. Like, that was my view.
Yeah, well, traditionally we will have strategy discussions as part of National Congress. That's quite an important element, although it hasn't. It's not never really structured or formal. And it sounds like you're kind of talking about the communication side of things, where we have to look at how we get our ideas out there. And then part 2 of that, which is the engagement side. After we've raised awareness of our cause, our identity, our moves, our values, our policies, how do we actually get people activated? How do we get people involved? How do we get people motivated to do stuff and then actually doing stuff?
Yep. That's the point. I see like lots, like not lots, but I see quite a few motivated people around me willing to do something, but there is no starting point. Like, and I was trying to do something on my own, like spinning the wheels, so no traction. So yeah.
yeah, it's really hard to it's hard to work on these things alone, which is why we have the organization of parties and political movements to come together around larger issues and larger campaigns.
Yeah, like when we talk about like the practical steps, I've got some contacts with the People's Revolution guys. Like these are like probably more like a social movement. They don't have any like they just protest and say we're not happy, but there is no like action points. Like we're not happy, but what shall we do? We just said that we're not happy. Looks like that's the end of the story. Potentially, try. It's like too forward-looking thing, but I think we're missing. But what I want to do is just introduce the next step. What shall we do? Like, we're not happy, but we need to do something with that.
All right. So I want to change my screen share, show a different one. So this was put together by Drew about a year. Fusion president Drew Wolfendale about a year and a bit ago, and introduced this concept of an engagement or activation pipeline, which is an idea I was working with at the time as well. And so the idea is that we have it's kind of like a conceptual pipeline where we have moved people through stages.
I couldn't say anything.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
I could hear, but I couldn't say anything. It's a black screen.
A blank screen. Okay. Let me fix that. So the idea of this engagement pipeline, if I can bring it up in a hot minute, is that we move people through this process. Boom. Okay, can you guys see that now?
Still black to me.
Can anyone else see it?
I can see it. It's on the stream.
Great. Okay. So the pipeline is like a thing that we put people through, where there's kind of like a series of categories that people are, and we want to move them through those categories. And the first category that literally everyone in the world is in is they've never heard of us, never heard of our movement, never heard of our organization. And so what we want to do is from a communications perspective, we want to make people aware of us and people have heard of us. So they move from that first category into the second category of actually having heard of us. And so then this is also the outreach process as well, where people start to hear about us and people get opportunities to actually start to get involved, which is the middle step, the pink stage here. And so getting involved where they're actually starting to attend events and talk about us a little bit. And then they move further down the pipeline towards the engagement, which is where they're actually doing things for the party or on behalf of the party, and they're taking part in activities. And so I played with this for ages, and I've sort of discussed it with Drew for ages as well. And there's 1,000 different little ways we can sort of adjust this or rephrase it. But the core concept is that as long as you've got some activity at each of these stages, the communication, outreach, involvement, engagement, and so on, and that people are moving through these stages, then the movement is growing and it's making progress, and we're getting more people, more energy, and more resources. And so I guess it's kind of like similar for any sort of movement, but we want to be thinking specifically about what our values and our principles and our ideas, how they can work into this. And there's a fantastic document called Swarmwise, or a concept called Swarmwise organizing, which plays really powerfully here in this space, which is again Rick Falkfinger in 2011 or earlier actually, that he wrote about it. And it's this idea that if we provide the organizing scaffold or organizing structure, then everything else will sort of fill into that. And we want to enable and empower decentralization and people to autonomously work towards our broader goals. And there's sort of strategies and ideas around that, but the core values that aligns with is allowing great amounts of individual autonomy, an open society, open data, high amounts of transparency, and free access and open access to community and culture, which if we embed all throughout this activation pipeline, then it becomes so much easier and so much more effective to have people hearing our ideas, entering the movement, and then start turning around to make real substantial change. So I'd love to invite anyone else who wants to speak on this topic. What are pirate politics? How can we make positive change for technology and evidence-based policies? How can we build a better future?
Like Miles, like just the question for instance, do like what's the best way to decide on the strategy on, like, on the hot topics that should be discussed, spread out and pick up people's attention, like, to engage people. Yeah, that's the general process of how to get people involved and how to make the change. But I think, like, in the and I think the involvement is happening through, through finding the right interested topics for people, so that makes people, like, interested to make the change, and what it means to be engaged in the party, because they would understand that the change could happen. Like, how do we decide about, like, the pathways, or, like, the major hot topics, like, for like, present to the public and getting the public feedback and engage this public? Like,
a lot of that just comes back to the communications method, that we can, to a greater or lesser extent, we can pick any policy, and then if we communicate it effectively, then that's kind of independent of the concept. And so, like, there's this concept in political science called the meta-narrative. And the meta-narrative, the political movements that succeed are ones that have a powerful and vibrant meta-narrative, which is embedded in all of their communications and all of their activities. And what that looks like is a kind of vibe or a feeling where the communications themselves just sort of work around this mysterious vibe, and the community is embedded in the vibe. And so if we, whichever policies we have, like, in theory, the policies all come from our values and our principles. And so that should be reflective or build up this structure of the meta-narrative around it.
Yep. And, like, when we're talking about decentralized organizations, like, trying to engage people, to what extent they're decentralized? Like, it's pretty centric at the moment, like, about the strategy, how, like, it's not centric, it's the framework. I think it's fine, but in respects of decentralization, like, to what extent do we give the freedom, like, to people around us, like, to make the steps and to actively participate in the development of the party, like, presenting the party, like, it's actually it's not presenting the party, right? Because there should be the broadcasters, the people who are allowed to do present and to talk on behalf of the party. So if it's fine if we, like, allow people to talk on behalf of themselves without reference to the party, but use as the center, like, use the party as the central point of attraction, like, nation builder is the website, so the people could like their interest, for example, in certain activities, but, like, it would start, like, from the individuals. Like, it's probably a bit vague, right?
Yeah, there's different degrees of decentralization that everyone's comfortable with. The Pirate Party has always, to a greater lesser extent, been decentralized. Fusion is more centralized because that's what the other Fusion partners, the other party branches, were in favor of. So it's more of a hybrid system there. But there's always a different balance, and no system would be perfect, and particularly not if it's in an extreme sense. So I guess it comes back to, what are the comfortable working methods for the people who are trying to make change?
Yeah.
And are they willing to have an open mind to be truth-seeking and adjust their process as well in order to be improving it?
Yep.
But if to be spokespeople, it is very easy. Just say you want to help, and then both Fusion and Pirates were both very eager to have contributions, to have participation and support.
Yep. Look, let's take the practical example, like, initiative from my end. Like, what I want to arrange, like, I want to arrange, like, social group, like, maybe in Facebook, maybe to have, like, in-person catch-ups, like, in the local library, or even, like, in Brisbane, Radcliffe, and, to engage, I don't know, quite a few people, see how it goes, discussing the topics of digital freedoms, and, thinking about the ways how we could resist online censorship, like, digital, how it's called, Online Freedom Act or something like that, like, a few activities. and then get these people maybe on boards for the party, if because like like all of these discussions should end up with actions, and like we've got like this type of discussions in the social clubs, whatever it is, like they would never come up with actions unless like there would be a real application of these ideas, right? And like what I see, like the application of these ideas could happen like only through the political parties.
So I love that energy. So I've got this guide which I wrote for a launch process to a state branch or a local branch, and the idea is that you have in this case it's a 6-month template, and the idea is that there's a series of meetings. There's about 1 or 2 meetings every month, and you go through these steps and slowly build up momentum as you go. You start out with exploring and looking for local issues, and then you start putting promotion and NG out about it, and then you start to refine your list and work down to a more narrow focus, and then start to transition towards more of a campaign backing around that refined list of issues. And so we've got the infrastructure for this, and nationally we have the expertise and the training to do it as well. It's just a matter of having enough local energy and local organizers willing to put in the time around these issues. That has always been the point of being the biggest barrier to actually growing the party. And so like there's a full guide here. There's information and resources on all the different steps with more detail. And I'll share this doc with you so you can have a look at it. And it's not meant to be religiously followed, but as a template that you take it and make any adjustments you think are necessary and adjust the timeline, and then start working through it. Because we've got resources and people both in Pyrex and Fusion to make this thing happen. And what we're lacking is organizers to put in the time and start to actually see things through.
Okay, it's amazing. Like it means like you're supporting like these individual initiatives.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so Pirates have always been heavily supportive of that decentralization. Maybe slightly less so Fusion, but at least with Fusion, I'm quite confident that we're willing to. Fusion is willing to support people or local organizers who are willing to work at building up through this process and working towards campaigns.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, Max, go on.
Cool. I've done I've created very simple website purely for the benefits of explaining my views, my concerns about digital freedoms and potential solutions for these items. I've done it on the blockchain because I'm quite supportive of the blockchain and lack of censorship, all of that noise. But either way, I might share this information. I shared this information with Owen, right? Maybe I could share with you, and then we could have another catch up, to discuss in more detail. And it would be probably parts of of this plan that you shared with us, state branch launch timeline. And that by that means you will see what type of topics I just want to introduce for the discussions for the local groups here.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share these resources with anyone who wants to work in this space and provide links to them in the spirit of open data and open organizing.
Yeah, you're supportive of open source. I am the supporter of the open source as well. That's it's obviously it's a good feature for us, but it's very difficult, without any all the it's a separate discussion. Sorry, man. Okay.
Okay, well, does anyone else have any comments or thoughts on this topic? All right. So what we might do then, do you want to say something, Max?
I know, that was digital freedoms, and then the separate topic is direct democracy, about getting people involved. These are not so much two directional things that I'm very interested in.
Cool. So let's move to draw today to a close then. So we are a little bit early. That's totally fine. I'm very happy with that. The agenda for tomorrow will be, the first item we'll be dealing with the nominations for the National Council. And then that'll be up until lunch. And then after lunch, we'll continue these discussion topics on strategy, party direction, and workshopping of policies for the future. So we're continuing more of this strategy discussion and planning. I'd like to invite, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
We should also have a special guest tomorrow. Councillor Michael Glenatzis should be on about 2. To share his experience with us. Yeah.
That'll be really exciting. Okay, so I want to encourage everyone to consider nominating for National Council. So the National Council is the national executive of the Pirate Party of Australia. It's predominantly an administrative role, but by the nature of it, there's also elements of being a spokesperson, of being a thought leader there as well. So I highly encourage everyone to consider nominating, and it's definitely not too late. You have until the formal start of business tomorrow morning, which is currently scheduled for 10 a.m. Although what we have done in the past and what we'll potentially do tomorrow is pass a temporary motion to allow any last minute nominations as well, if anyone is still considering or working on theirs or wants to hear some discussions. What I'll also do is I'll link the current nominations for electable positions into chat for everyone to have a look. Please, I highly consider running or nominating. There's also not necessarily a requirement to actually to engage in administrative or spokesperson work on the National Council, because we have the councillor role, which is not a named role, and there's no obligation to take a portfolio or take any responsibilities. The National Councillor role is to a greater or lesser extent a training role and a support role, with the option of taking up a portfolio if you so desire. And the other option for quote unquote training and support roles is to take a deputy role. And so that's deputy president, deputy secretary, and deputy treasurer. And for those roles, you will essentially understudy the main role, stepping in if they go AWOL, but also observing and learning the process and the actions involved there. So to make a nomination, all you have to do is, in true pirate and open source style, just make an account on the wiki, edit the wiki page, and add your nomination in directly. We are the only, I believe, the first, and at present the only active party to have a Wikipedia page. There have been other minor parties. I think Flux Party had one.
I mean, having a Wikipedia page is not uncommon. Having a media wiki install,
yes,
that
sorry,
is the rare thing.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Everyone has a page on wikipedia.org about them. We have our own media installation. We have entirely our own Wikipedia, our own wiki on the party and policy. So if you have any issues or would like some help, or if you're simply feeling lazy, you are invited to email your nomination to Party Secretary Alex Jago, who will upload it on your behalf. So Alex, if you want to quickly chuck your email into text chat, and there's a little comment in chat as well, which I think is important to mention. The quorum on the National Executive is 3 people. So we need 3 people to make decisions. There is exactly 3 nominations at the moment, so that's good. But it would be good to have 5 as a bit of a safe margin there. And so we've got a nice sort of working number that the 3 of us don't really feel overloaded. Simon's asking, are there any particular portfolios which need help? What kind of task would you like from a councillor? So in a general sense, a portfolio here would refer to a specific set of issues or policies. So we currently have no portfolios assigned, but an example of portfolios that could be assigned include geopolitics, the international pirate movement, economics, environment, social issues, planning and development, urban policy, agriculture, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So essentially, if there's any particular issues that you feel passionate enough about to focus on your policy and spokesperson work, and the National Council, then you would be very encouraged to take that, self-nominate that as a portfolio for yourself to take action on. And then we on the council would then support you to engage in policy and spokesperson work for that portfolio. I should mention the other two electable positions as well. So there is the Dispute Resolution Committee, which I believe
has received nominations from its two incumbents. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Great. And the third position on the DRC
is not currently up for election.
Right. Is there only three? I thought there was five on the committee.
On the Pirate DRC, there's three, and we have two in 1 year. We have two elected in even years and one elected in odd years. So
great.
So we've also got as Miles may have mentioned, we've got the policy development officer is also a nationally electable role. And we've got 3 councillor slots and deputies, president, treasurer, and secretary. Simon asks, would I need help with executing membership migration diffusion? Yeah, so it's not just not really a migration, it's a synchronization. I've begun work on planning it, though I haven't done all the work on planning it yet because, you might have voted against it. In fact, the vote might still not go through, right? Like we might not have quorum in the membership vote. So I didn't want to preempt too much work. But yeah, I think I will appreciate a bit of help with that, especially if anyone knows anything about, if anyone's experienced with Postgres, then, always happy to take advice on that front. Because, databases are complex beasts. If you've done work with Postgres, if you've done work with REST APIs, then always happy to have a chat about that sort of thing because that's what it will be.
Yeah, like if you need, look, obviously I'm just a hobby developer, doing something on the side, I'm not professional, but if you need hands, I might need your guidance as well, but I'm happy to help, mate, where I can.
Awesome. Yeah, like fundamentally, it's a synchronization script that will need to be writing here. I've spent a whole bunch of time thinking about the business logic because there's a whole bunch of fun little cases, but ultimately it's a synchronization script.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's bring today to a close. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at 10 o'clock East Coast time. In the meantime, please do consider nominating. If you have any questions about nominations or would like any assistance or support, please get in touch. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon. Oh, hang on. Well, hang on. Sorry, we have to motion.
And also Bryn wants to speak.
Mostly reminding you about motion.
Yes.
I'm just gonna bail. Bye, guys. Place your votes in chat. Give it a little bit longer. Okay, that motion passes. Let's bring the string down. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Okay, let me know once the splash screen's up.